Now we have the honor to have another keynote speaker. We are honored to have Dr. Ma. Dr. Ma is, many of you know him. He's the director of Tsinghua Center for Finance and Development. He's the chairman of China Green Finance Committee. He's member of China Central Bank's Monetary Policy Committee and chair of Workstream 1 of the NGFS. Dr. Ma, the floor is yours for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Pierre, and congratulations to Martin on the announcement of the EU strategy for achieving carbon neutrality by 2050. First of all, I should actually thank our organizers for hosting this very important event. In fact, China and France have been working together on many of the green finance, sustainable finance initiatives together. For example, back a little more than a year ago, Bank of France was calling me saying that we'd like to set up this NGFS. Would PBOC join as a founding member? I said, why not? So that time, it was 8 central banks and supervisors. Now it's 21. And the second example between China and French on green finance collaboration is the joint conference, which we started back a few months ago in Shanghai, which was co-chaired by Philip and myself. And we're beginning the journey towards, I think, a longer-term collaboration between the two countries, mobilizing private sector money for green investment, both in China, in France, as well as in other parts of the world. In the next few minutes, I'd like to say a few words on the recent progress in China's green finance agenda, as well as some of the international initiatives that we are promoting. Within China, as you heard probably many times, we launched the Green Finance Guidelines in 2016, which included the 35 actions. And just give you a few updates on the implementation. In terms of taxonomy, we have already the green loan definition starting from 5 years ago. We had a green bond definition 3 years ago. And now we're consolidating actually a few different green bond definitions within China into one piece. The draft is ready, and in a few months' time, I think it will have a unified Chinese version of green bond taxonomy. In terms of incentives, we have introduced a central bank re-lending facility for green, which means that the central bank provides cheap financing to commercial banks and asking the commercial banks to provide cheap low-cost loans to green projects. The second incentive we provided, again through the PBOC, is to introduce a green Mpa assessment. Mpa refers to macro-prudential assessment, which historically was used to assess the prudential performance, like capital adequacy, liquidity ratio, and so on. Now, the green elements included in the Mpa, which means that if a bank has a high percentage of green loans, it gets a high score in the Mpa assessment by the central bank, which may eventually translate into a monetary incentive for the bank. And the third example is at local government level, some of the local governments in China are already providing interest subsidies for green loans and green bonds. For example, in Jiangsu province, they provide 30% subsidy for interest payments on green bonds. And a recent proposal that's made by myself to the China Monetary Policy Committee is to reduce the risk weights for green loans. And the risk weights, I said, should be reduced from 100% to 50%. If this is done, I think it will substantially reduce the funding cost for all green loans across the board by as much as 0.5 percentage points. And this may be the most significant green finance action in history, if it's done. In the area of environmental information disclosure, as I said yesterday, the CSRC, which is the regulator for the stock markets, has already published a 3-year plan for implementing a compulsory disclosure requirement. By 2020, China will require all listed companies to disclose environmental and climate information. And a recent template was produced by a research group under the CSRC. It includes 20 indicators, such as CO2, SO2, NOx, COD, energy consumption, and water consumption. So within a few years, I think we have a complete database of officially disclosed environmental information so that financial markets will be able to quantify the greenness or environmental performance of the companies. In terms of a product level development, we, in 2016, launched the green bond market, which became the largest in the green bond, global green bond market in that year, accounting for 40% of the total green bond issuance. And in the last 3 years, China launched 250 green funds. Most of these are private equity funds in green. And we launched many products in areas of green ABS, green ETF, solar insurance, pollution liability insurance, green building insurance. And we're now working towards collateralized lending on environmental rights, including pollution rights and the emission rights. Just a few words on international collaboration. We strongly believe that green finance is an area of a lot of knowledge sharing because many experiences and product developments, once done in one country, can be easily adapted to other countries. So in at least 3 areas, we are making efforts to promote international collaboration. One is the G20 Green Finance Study Group, which was launched by China in 2016. And I had the honor to co-chair the study group for the past 3 years. And this year, which is renamed to G20 Sustainable Finance Study Group, has worked on 3 new topics, promoting securitization of sustainable assets, development of sustainable PE and VC, and application of fintech to sustainable finance. And I'm looking forward to a very official message from the G20 leaders in the coming few days to recognize the work of the G20 Sustainable Finance Study Group from Argentina. And the second effort is really the NGFS, China, and French Central Bank being founding members of the network, have been working on 3 areas. And I, again, had the honor to co-chair, to chair the first work stream, which is called Supervision work stream. That work stream is looking at 3 major topics. One is to improve the environmental risk analysis by financial regulators and by financial firms. And the second one is to encourage disclosure of climate-related information according to TCFD by the financial sector. And finally, studying the feasibility of various supporting factors from the policy level to advance the green finance agenda. And the final example on international collaboration is the need for capacity building for emerging markets. We strongly believe that emerging markets will eventually become the most important area for carbon reduction. In fact, in 20 years' time, I think maybe 70% of carbon will be coming from these countries, and we need to make sure in the next 20 years we will develop a lot of low carbon infrastructure so that the carbon is not locked in for the coming few decades. And in order to enhance the capacity of these countries in adopting green finance practices, we in Tsinghua University in Beijing has launched a green finance leadership program. In the past 6 months, we organized 2 events. We brought in 48 emerging market countries, roughly 200 officials from the central banks, banking regulators, stock exchanges, and so on, to get exposure to the best practices in the world on green and sustainable finance. And we're looking forward to further expanding that program into many more activities. Next year, we're already planning activities in Morocco, in Astana, and a few in China. And I think this is a key part of the global green finance development. Not only we need a policy, but we also need capacity to do products as well as implementing within the banking system. Thank you very much.